Hi everyone. Today I'm going to take you through employee onboarding, which is an important part of the role which is called HR generalist. Let me start with a simple quote that I read up on Google. It is by the authors of the book called The Alliance. It says, the importance of onboarding is significantly increased these days since the average turnover at work is less than 4 years and lifetime employment strategies are out of date. Setting this context, let's talk about how a great employee onboarding program should look like and how it helps retain employees in the long run. So today we're going to talk about three pieces. One is the actual employee onboarding part. The second piece is the buddy program. And the third piece is known as employee confirmation, which a lot of organizations might or might not have. Okay. So let's first try and understand what's the difference between employee orientation versus onboarding. A lot of times we tend to interchange these terminologies, but the essence differs, the essential meaning differs, all right? So as you can see on the screen, employee orientation is a one-time event, okay, which is organized within the first 7 to 10 days of a new joiner joining the organization. Okay, so it consists of everything, right from, giving off the laptops to giving the employee ID card to kind of organizing that one entire day earlier classroom session wherein you had leaders come and talk about how they're managing different teams, what are different people in different teams doing, what is the company's culture, vision, mission, values, and things like those. Okay. Employee onboarding, on the other hand, is a much more detailed, extensive process, okay, which in some organizations can last up to even like 1 year of the new joiner joining the particular organization. Okay. So employee onboarding is defined as a series of events that are organized for new joiners to get used to the culture, working style, and processes of the new workplace. So this essentially encompasses the employee orientation piece, but it starts right from the time the offer is released till the time the employee joins, gets assimilated within the organization. And typically in most of the organizations, it lasts for about the first 90 days of the new joiner joining the organization. All right. So moving ahead, let's see how does a great employee onboarding process look like. So right from the time when the offer is released by the recruiter, right? The recruiter has to kind of collect the documents to ensure that the background verification process is started in the background, and also has to make an attempt to engage the candidate. Okay. Now you'll ask me, why is it important? Why is it important to engage the candidate at this point? Because candidates might have multiple offers from multiple organizations, right? And you as a recruiter would have put in your heart and soul to ensure that that one particular position is closed. So you would want to retain the candidate who has decided to continue or rather start his or her journey with your organization. So once the candidate accepts the offer, again, if you have not collected the documents while rolling out the offer, this is the time when you can again start collecting the documents, or you can continue with the document collection process and again keep the candidate engaged. So there are a number of ways in which you can keep the candidates engaged. Either you give them trainings to be completed prior to them joining the organization, or you send out newsletters pertaining to the important events that are happening within the organization. So there are a lot of ways to engage them. You might even end up giving them a call, checking up or checking in with them, asking them, how are they doing, how's their family doing, and what is it that they're looking forward to before they join the organization and all that, right? So now we're coming to day 0. This is one day prior to when the candidate would be joining as a new joiner within the organization. So during this time, you have to have a checklist handy. So the checklist should have things like, who are the stakeholders that the candidate is supposed to meet? Is there any, are there any particular documents that need to be collected on that particular day when the candidate joins? Like, do you want to open up a bank account for that particular employee? You want to give the laptop on the first day? And, whom is it that you want the candidate to meet? Do you want to give an employee handbook on the first day? All that, you should have a checklist ready. And you should also keep the laptop, ID card, notebook, anything of that sort ready, right? So this is typically in a scenario when the onboarding would have been like the employee would have walked into the office premises. So in today's scenario, when everything is virtual, again, you still need to have a checklist handy, which means you have to ensure that the candidate is virtually e-meeting certain key people as and when on the day of his or her joining. And again, the laptop, ID card, everything needs to be ready to be sent to the new joiner on his or her day of joining, right? And on the day of orientation, again, like in a typical setting when this entire pandemic hadn't happened, I, as a new joiner, got to meet new stakeholders, key stakeholders within the organization, and I had to complete formalities to ensure that I have my bank account handy, or I'm filling up that PF form and everything that's required. Again, this is something which now in this virtual setting, you should be doing online, right? Post-orientation, again, assignment of buddy, right? So a pre-identified buddy is what needs to be assigned to the new joiner. Typically someone who's like a peer, who's at the same level within the organization, but is like a tenured professional within the organization. And set up any additional trainings, any compliance trainings, those are required pertaining to ethics, pertaining to knowing the policies within the organization and all that. And then complete the onboarding, which means setting up the checkpoints. Okay, so when I say complete the onboarding, the process in itself isn't complete, but it's kind of a continuous process in this case. So you have the 30, 60, 90 days checkpoint set up at this point of time. Then you're again analyzing your checklist. You're getting feedback to the new joiner in terms of how he or she is feeling. So that's pretty much how a great employee onboarding process should look like. Okay. Now moving towards what can be automated versus what remains manual. So given that we have moved to a remote working setting, and a lot of these new joiners might be finding it very overwhelming, to be welcomed online or virtually, and even organizations or HR, recruiters or maybe team members would be finding it really challenging to virtually welcome them. We can still take a look at what can be automated versus what remains manual. So for example, emails to employees, like once you've rolled out the offer and everything, after that, the emails that I was talking about, wherein you can share the newsletter and everything, this can be still an automated process. However, the content within the email has to be customized, right? So that again would be a manual process wherein either you're manually entering the name or you're doing a mail merge or things like that. And tasks like background verification, prerequisite mandatory trainings, all this rollout should be an automated process, but at the same time, personalized phone calls to check about these data points, in case a candidate hasn't submitted his or her relieving letter on time, you can still give up a call and ask, hey, what's gone wrong? Can you, how soon can you give me the relieving letter and stuff like that? And there are certain onboarding apps that organizations are using, such as DigiDesk, Zoho, Kissflow, Trello, etc. So these can be used to kind of ensure that even these emails and all that you're automating separately, you can do it through the app itself. However, resolution of the grievances, like if the new joiner has a grievance saying, you know what, you had mentioned a different designation, but in the offer letter I have a different designation, or I might have to push my joining date by a week or whatever it is like that. Those should again be a very manual process. Tracking the completion of mandatory compliance trainings or prerequisite trainings, if any, that you have provided to the candidate, should be an automated process. But assimilation of the new joiners within the culture of the organization should be a manual process, wherein you are doing those culture surveys, you are assigning buddies manually, and you're figuring out what is it that the candidate is liking or not liking within the organization. All right. So this is a graphic. I picked it up from the net and I've mentioned the source here. These are the 4 advantages, overall advantages of onboarding, which is companies see an 82% improvement in new hire retention after introducing onboarding. Onboarding makes employees nearly 2 times as productive. 9 out of 10 employees say buddy program accelerates employee proficiency. Great onboarding can lead to 60% year-on-year improvement in revenue. Then onboarding improves customer satisfaction 63% year over year. So these are some of the benefits of having a great onboarding process, which is not just really transactional in nature, but it is more experiential for the candidate who's joining the new organization. Okay. So let's now try and understand how does a buddy program look like and who is really a buddy. Okay, so buddies are essentially, like I said, they can be peers or they can be at max 1 rank up, who are like tenured employees or professionals within the organization who will orient the new joiners to help them understand more about the unsaid rules within the organization, the culture of working, who are the key stakeholders to approach to get noticed or to get work done and stuff like that. And they usually support the new joiners for almost like 1 to 6 months, after the new joiners join the organization. And buddies themselves should have the skills and knowledge to socialize the new joiners on the company's guidelines, norms, culture, and everything. And they should have the ability and willingness to mentor them, right? Along with having great communication skills and interpersonal skills. So essentially, if you are making someone who is like a dissatisfied employee within the organization, who's still a tenured professional, a buddy, that person will not kind of give the experience that you would want to give to a new joiner who joins the organization. So that person might end up cribbing about the company, might end up divulging information that is not required to be divulged to the new joiner. So someone who can keep information confidential, someone who can give the employee the true picture of the organization, but at the same time talk more about the positives, is someone who's your ideal buddy. Okay. And implementing an inspirational buddy program, meaning, you get nominations from people who want, like I said, mentioned earlier, who have the ability and willingness to mentor people. You get nominations from them, you shortlist them, you interview them, and then you first orient the buddies before they orient the new joiners. You provide them with the checklist, citing the expectations, what is required out of them as a buddy, right? And mention the clear do's and don'ts that they are supposed to follow while interacting with the new joiner, and then get feedback. So you get periodic feedback from the buddy as well as from the people that they are buddy to, right? So get feedback from both the parties and do a quarterly analysis of the number of meetups that both the buddy and the new joiner are having, and reward the buddies. Rewards play a very big role, a very huge role in ensuring that this buddy program is a success. So anything great that is done or anything that is done well should be rewarded. So buddies who perform well should, have positive, basically buddies who perform well and receive positive feedback from new joiners should be rewarded. It can be monetary, it can be in the form of recognizing them over an email, it can be through leadership recognition, anything of that sort help.